Good afternoon, and also good morning to those of you who are joining us from around the world for this event today. So 10 weeks ago, Russia launched its full-scale invasion into Ukraine. And like me, I'm sure you've all been following the news bulletins and the news from Ukraine with horror. My name is Andrew Burgess, and I'm a senior political advisor here at the ALDE Party. For those of you not familiar with our work, the ALDE Party brings together more than 70 liberal political parties from all across Europe, united in our ambition to strengthen liberalism across Europe. I'm really delighted that we can be joined today from Kiev by Kira Rudik, a member of the Ukrainian parliament and the leader of the Holos party, one of our member parties in Ukraine, for this briefing on the current situation and also an opportunity for you to ask your questions to her. We have some questions already submitted to us ahead of the event from registrants, but if you have a question that you would like to ask, please can I ask you to write it into the Q&A section if you're joining us on Zoom, or if you are watching us on Facebook or via YouTube, please kindly leave your question as a comment and we will find it there. But you did not register today to listen to me, so please allow me to introduce our speaker today. For many of you, Kira will need no introduction, but just in case, let me introduce you to Kira. So Kira is the leader of the Holos political party, and she is a member of Parliament of Ukraine. In the Parliament, she is the first deputy chairwoman of the Committee on Digital Transformation. She is also the co-head of the Interfactional Deputy Association Humane Country that works on initiatives to protect animals from cruelty. Before entering politics, Kira was an IT entrepreneur who ensured the acquisition of Ring Ukraine by Amazon for $1 billion. Kira is engaged in numerous civic and business organizations, and she served on the board of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine and the IT Ukraine Association. The party leads Holos, has been a member of the ALDE Party family since 2020. Kira, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm extremely grateful for everybody who joined us today, and thank you for registering for this event. It's so important for me personally that people have interest in what's going on in Ukraine, and that I have this time to tell you of what's going on and to give you this information. Thank you so much. So I would like to structure today our discussion with explaining about the military part, the economical part, the humanitarian part, and the international support. And also, I learned that no matter how much you talk about Russian gas and oil or sanctions or weapons or anything, people are still interested in like, how's your everyday life and how the things are during war. So don't hesitate to ask those questions, and I'm ready to talk about it because it is very important. It gives us all a perspective of how our lives were and how our lives are and what they can be. And honestly, what is important and what is not. I would be very happy to share that with you. So today is day 70 of war that Russia started on us. And honestly, none of us thought that we would get to day 70. We thought that either we would win or we would lose earlier than that. Well, we didn't think that we would lose, but the whole world was not very optimistic at the very, very beginning. Russia's main goal was to take Ukraine in 5 days. They announced that they would take Kiev, where I'm here right now, that they would take it in 5 days, and they failed. They said that they would take east of our country and south of our country. They were not able to do that as well. However, they were able to take smaller cities such as Kherson or Melitopol, and you all know about the terrible situation in Mariupol that is going on right now. Why today is so critical and why things are getting heated? Because Russia is preparing to this date, May 9th, the Victory Day. For decades, Soviet Union and all post-Soviet countries were celebrating this particular date as a victory day in Second World War, where we had all the parades, we had our veterans who were going and marching forward, and it was a matter of extreme pride for all of us, and it was a matter of extreme pride for empire like Russia is. And so they would try to have some victories to show, and they're already repeating their parade on the Red Square. However, As of right now, there is no particular win that they could show to their people. And this is so important because they would try to make those wins during the nearest days. And this is why we are so concerned. This is why we are so prepared. May 9th would be a significant day because there could be a different things that would happen in Russia. We expect that it could be either mass mobilization or an official statement of war, or maybe something else. Because as for Russian propaganda, it is critical that they would show their people that they are still great and that it was not for nothing that they invaded Ukraine and started all those sanctions and all that isolation on their country. So as of right now, Russians left Kiev and outskirts of Kiev. You have all seen the reports from Bucha, Gostomel, Borodyanka. The atrocities that Russian forces committed there are terrifying even for the people who have seen wars. The atrocities that we have seen with our own eyes and that we have heard from people who actually suffer these atrocities, they are not even things for international court. There's something for, the Mossad level revenge. I have talked to people from the occupied territories in Bucha and Irpin and Gostomel right after we pushed Russian forces from there. And this was terrifying. And this is why we are fighting so hard everywhere else, because we know that if Russian forces would come in, that there will be nothing actually left intact. No life would stay the same. No people would be able to continue doing what they were doing and continue living their lives. And this is why our military in Azovstal in Mariupol, they are saying, we know that it is a suicide mission, but we will continue doing that because we know what happens when the Russian forces are coming in. As of right now, basically, Russians checked every single box on the war crime list. And we have recently voted in Ukrainian parliaments about joining there and working with the International Criminal Court, because we do believe that at some point we will be able to make sure that Putin is taken into tribunal and his surroundings or the generals who were giving those orders, that they would be held responsible. That is critically important for the world right now, to make sure that people who commit those crimes and atrocities, who order them to be committed, that they have responsibility and that the justice finds them. We will be talking a lot today probably about the changes and impact war in Ukraine has on the whole earth and the world that we are going to live in, and the questions that we are asking ourselves and the world is asking us. But these crises, they are on so many different levels. Like, for example, is it the rules that define us or the fight with evil that define us? Is it the effectiveness that we are looking at, or is it the stick to the previous ideas that is pushing us? There are many, many things that we will have redefined, and the justice is one of them. So economically, I cannot even begin to tell you what's happening in Ukraine. You can probably imagine. It's only 15% of the businesses and productions are working right now. So it's an awful situation, and when we are talking about rebuilding Ukraine, it all comes with a step one, which means peace, which means end of war. And for us, it's not even peace; it's victory that needs to happen, because after that we can talk about rebuilding, we can talk about infrastructure, we can talk about investments. So every single month right now, our budget has a $5 to $7 billion hole. And as a member of parliament, I can tell you it's terrifying, because you don't know if you will be able to get money next month to pay pensions and to pay your soldiers who are on the front. This is why we are getting right now support from different ways, different means, and this is why it's a big question mark of how are we going to sustain this war, not even with the military support that we are getting from our international partners, but also with the financial support. It is really limited, and we know that it is pretty unfair that taxpayers and citizens from all over the world need to pay for Russian crimes. So one of the points that I'm personally working in Ukrainian parliament and on diplomatic front is to make sure that Russian assets that are seized by and frozen by different countries, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and European countries, that they get unfrozen and are invested back to Ukraine. And it is extremely complicated because it has a lot to do with international laws and how things work, but it will definitely need to happen. Because right now, we need at least $600 billion to rebuild our country, with all the compensations, rebuilding cities, infrastructure, etc. Can you imagine of what investment that would need to be? And on a funny note, exactly the same amount of money is frozen right now all over the world. It's money of Russian oligarchs, it's money of Russian central bank. So this is where we are looking as a pretty good and I think pretty fair way of getting compensation to help and support my country. On the humanitarian note, well, I'm sure that many of you have heard that today is an extremely good day for Ukraine. Because today 156 of women and children and elderly from Mariupol were able to get to safety. We have tried for 20 times at least to get them out. Can you imagine how it must have felt like every single time getting on the buses, trying to get out to safety, giving out your children to strangers just to keep them safe, and then to come back to the place that doesn't have food, water, sanitation, and where the only future that you can imagine is death. Sometimes it's immediate death after the Russian airstrikes, and sometimes it's terrible death of hunger, of dehydration, of lack of medical aid. And right now, these people are safe. And we are trying to get more. We are trying to get out more. And answering your question that I have seen in the list about the protectors of Mariupol, about our military, they are going to remain there. They know that it is a suicide mission for them, but they are going to protect their city. They have seen what happens at the places that Russian attack and where the Russian soldiers come, and they said, we will not allow that. They know that they will probably all remain there, but they continue and they will do that. And this is incredible heroism of Ukrainian soldiers that right now still is surprising the whole world. It just makes me very emotional when I'm thinking about it. We were lucky enough to talk to the soldiers in Azovstal, and the things that I heard from them, this is what I'm sharing with you. We are unable to provide them with additional weapons or supplies. We are only able to take people out of there, but we also bow to their bravery, because bravery is a new word for Ukrainians. And this is also extremely important for my country to know and to feel that this is a new word for us. We are brave. We are fighting as nobody ever before. And we'll be fighting for our liberty and for our ability to defend these democratic values. You know, 70 days ago, the democratic values, they used to be the things like we are saying, yeah, democratic values. And today, I know exactly what they stand for. When I'm singing national anthem in Verkhovna Rada, I know every single word of it, what it means to me, because I know how many people sacrifice their life for it. When I'm able to have a Ukrainian flag behind me, I know how many people had to die. So I would be able to tell you that I'm talking to you from the peaceful city of Kiev, city that was getting ready for a siege, and now we are free. We are free, and we only have to be afraid of Russian air missiles coming to us, but not to Russian forces that would come here to rape us and kill us. And I'm over the time a little bit on our plan. So when you're talking about war, there is so much to tell about different things, about how our soldiers hit the Russian flagman ship Moskva, and the postmarks that were that were developed before that and that predicted that we will do that. So can you imagine $750 million cost and huge ship with a lot of stations that are firing missiles in Ukraine? And we hit it and we destroy it. And the whole world military applauds to our soldiers and saying, wow, this must be a hand of God. And we are saying, yeah, well, you know, or how right now we have a planting season in Ukraine. You know, before the war, we were one of the top 3 producers of world grain, wheat, sunflower oil, and tomatoes. And we have talked to United Nations that right now the war in Ukraine will cause the food storage crisis in the whole world, and it will. But you know what happens right now? My people are coming out to their fields and farmers are planting for the new harvest. And where we are telling them it's unsafe, it's dangerous, don't do that. And they say, yeah. You know, my father was a farmer, my grandfather was a farmer, I'm a farmer. So what should you do? Yeah, there are mines, okay, we will unmine them. And we are going out and we are planting. So we are right now actually 70% done of the general peaceful plan. It's another question of how are we going to get this harvest and take it out, how we are going to help our agricultural fields. But all in all, this resilience is fantastic. Can you imagine the support that we are getting right now from the whole world still on the day 70? On the day 70, we are still getting protests and demonstrations in all the top cities of the world. I'm getting thousands of messages every day from the places that I have never been, but where people are waving Ukrainian flags and saying, we are with you, we are Ukraine. Can you imagine of how many people opened their homes to my people so they would have a roof over their head and a hot cup of tea? And for 70 days, they continue doing that. So this is an incredible amount of support that we are getting. And today is also a good day for my country because their 6th package of sanctions was announced. So there is already a ban on Russian coal. Now there will be a ban on Russian oil, and next step would be a ban on Russian gas. The sad thing is, while we are talking with you, European countries are still paying $1 billion a day to Russia for the energy resources, and that definitely needs to stop. The bad news are that it will take months before Russia will actually feel that, and before all the things will actually stop. The good things is that these processes are coming, and they're inevitable, because I know that our partners right now understand the evil that Russia is, same way as we understood it for 8 years. You know, yesterday in Ukrainian parliament, we had our president talking to the parliament for the first time since the war. And he said, it was very funny. He said, like, you know, I didn't have time for you because I know we all have been busy. And it's true. We have all been doing the same thing, protecting our country and making sure that we will win. But we also had Boris Johnson online, and he was giving his speech. It was an amazing speech with a lot of jokes, some of them kind of inappropriate, but we know him. And he said, important thing for my people. He said, we were all wrong by ignoring the threat for 8 years. And for people who were saying every single day, Russia is a threat, let's stop them. For 8 years, it's so important for us that these things are admitted. So important. Because Russia right now is able to continue war because they accumulated $760 billion on their accounts just to be able to afford it, to commit all those atrocities that they're doing right now in my country. And we need to make sure that it's not like never again. It is never again. So this war, every single person is just starts their day asking, am I the most effective? Am I the best today at my capabilities and abilities to help my country to get closer to the win? And we have this joke on radio, which is said, okay, it's noon. It's 1 hour closer to our victory. And on everybody who were asking of how people are doing here, we are doing great. We are resilient as ever, and we are fighting, we'll be fighting them till the end, I can promise you that. And I can tell you something very personal. In my prayers, aside of the prayers for peace, for all whom I love will remain safe, and the ones who are fighting at the front will kill as many Russians as possible and return home. I also say, dear God, thank you that when the war started, we all turned out to be exactly the same people that we imagined ourselves to be at the crisis like this. This is extremely important, because to operate every single day, you need to believe in yourself as well. Thank you. Glory to Ukraine, and I'm ready to your questions.
Well, thank you, Kira, for an incredible overview. We really appreciate it. And as always, whenever we listen to you, we can hear the passion and emotion in what you say when you tell us. I'm sure this will trigger some questions. So please allow me to remind the colleagues who are joining us that if you wish to ask a question to Kira, please leave it in the Q&A section of the Zoom. Or if you are following us on Facebook or on YouTube, please leave it as a comment so we can pose it to you. Before we move to the questions, I would like to give the floor to Annalou van Egmont, who is one of the vice presidents of the ALDE Party, who would like to say a few words to you, Kira.
Of course. Well, very impressive. I'm not sure if you can see me, but I'm fairly sure you can hear me.
I can hear you, Anna.
Thank you for that update. One of the things actually that I wanted to discuss with you is that, because we're all members of the same family of values that you were referring to, there's lots that all kinds of governments and organizations are doing. They're sending over mostly military goods, but from a viewpoint of values and morale, what do you need from your liberal political family?
Annalou, thank you so much for your support. So we need to make sure that if this war will continue further, and we see that it could be like a long and ongoing process, that we will still have all our values in place. During the times of war, sometimes there is this way of switching a little bit to tyranny, a little bit to autocracy, and this has been my fear since day one. We are very far from it, but I want to make sure that on every step of the way we are making sure that the democratic values that we are fighting for, that they are still here, because it's very easy to say, okay, we need to ramp this up or down a little bit because the war needs. But it's also important to remember what we are fighting for. In terms of morale, in terms of the support from our liberal families, well, I need you to come here and see what's happening to my country with me. Thank you so much for the visit that we had recently of my colleagues and the vice presidents of ALDE Party, and because this is incredibly important and it gives you exactly the feeling of what's going on. We will be talking about female leadership on one hand and female protection and sexual crimes on the other hand, because this is an important topic that we need to address right now. We need to be talking about freedom of speech that needs to continue in my country. And the further we go, the more important that point would be. We do appreciate all the help that we are getting or making sure that our members of parliament and members of party are being engaged into international events. You know, I have been here since day one, and I never left Kiev other than to Bucha, and then I came back. But I know that my colleagues who went to Europe and came back, they got this energy and understanding of how the world is supporting us, and that we can give the idea of what's going on to the world back. And especially for the members of liberal parties here on the ground, the ones who are working right now on rebuilding their cities, it would be incredibly important to get this feel when they are part of something bigger. This is what I can think of right now, off the top of my head, on what the sister parties and ALDE as an organization would be able to give us, and we would appreciate that.
Obviously, we will gladly support you in any way we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. So allow me now to move to the Q&A, if that's okay with you, Kira. So I'll abuse my right to ask the first question. So earlier this week, you posted a photo of a fruit and vegetable seller that you visited in Kiev, who opened his store every day. Now this photo, it really spoke to the strength and the resilience of the Ukrainian people for me. You're joining us today from Kiev. What does the situation feel like there?
Well, the city came back to life pretty fast, though, and I'm on strong contact with the mayor of the city, Vitaly Klitschko, and we have been constantly saying, people, please do not come back unless it's absolutely important and critical, because the threat is still here. And if you can be useful somewhere else, please do not come back, because Kyiv will still remain a target for Putin for quite a while. But people say, yeah, and they come back. So it's lots of life right now. You cannot imagine, for the ones from you from Northern Europe, you know what spring means. You know exactly like how important it is to get the smell of the flowers, because you get it for such a short time. So people came back, they continue doing their businesses, they are returning. It's still probably 50% of small shops that are open, but they are. And there are coffee shops that are on the streets, and there are even some gyms that are open, and people continue working, and they try to bring as much life as possible. So it's not an empty city as it was before when we were preparing for a siege. But the man that and the picture that I took, it was really at the darkest times, when he was probably the only one where I was the only one booth that was open when I was buying fruit and veggies. And when I was asking him if he was not afraid to do so, he said, well, somebody has continued the chain of life. I sell you fruit, you're buying fruit, and we all continue doing our stuff.
You mentioned in your briefing, so the Parliament met again yesterday in another emergency session. How does that feel, attending as an MP during a wartime? And how important is it for you that the Parliament still continues to function?
Well, when I'm asking myself this particular question of where am I the most useful, the first answer is I'm elected member of parliament, and I have to fulfill on my duty first of all. So we had our first session 2 hours after the war started, and it was super scary, because and it still continues to be kind of scary, because the Russians always threat that they will shoot a missile onto the parliament building when we are all of us there. But people, when there is a man who is opening his store every single day, and if there are people who are fighting, our soldiers are fighting and our doctors are curing, so we as parliamentarians need to work. I'm extremely proud to be a member of parliament during the wartime. You know, our previous president, he once told me that there is no Stanford in the world who would be teaching you how to be a president during the wartime, or how to be a member of parliament during the wartime, how to be a parent during the wartime, how to be a mother and a teacher. So I thought that we will be the best of what we can be. And I'm extremely proud, because it's a real opportunity for us to make those changes that needed to be made, including liberal changes to the economy that we are doing right now, given that our opponents are looking the other way. So we are doing most of the parliamentarian work behind the scenes, and we only coming to parliament to vote, to sing our national anthem and greet the visitors. It's usually usually presidents of different countries or speakers of different parliaments who are coming to support us. So we are not doing like too much of actual work inside the parliament for the safety reasons. But on the other side, there is lots of things that need to be done to adjust our legislation to the wartime. And I can give you like just a couple of examples, and those who are listening to us who are from ALDE parties, or you would know, like, for example, that you need to force local councils to get the land for the cemeteries. It's something that no local council usually is eager to do, right? And now we have to do this. Or making sure that pro-Russian parties are forbidden. Or making sure that people who left Mariupol and places like this, that they can get their unemployment support without any paperwork. They're just coming saying, I'm from Mariupol, this is my first and last name, I have nothing, and they will get the support. So there is like lots of stuff that, like really good stuff for people that you can do. And it's incredibly important that we are part of it right now. And there is much more that we can do and we will do. The economical situation is terrible right now, but of what we can afford, we are doing everything.
Thank you. So we have received a question from one of our other vice presidents of the ALDE Party, who says, many of us ask our governments to increase support, both economically and politically. Do you have any idea of the views of ordinary Russians? Are they kept in the darkness, or are they just scared to voice their resistance?
You know, at the era of internet, I do not think that people are kept in the dark. Like you have Telegram, you have like whatever, Facebook. So I think the long-term propaganda made it so that Russians choose not to believe what's happening. And at the very beginning, we hoped for Russian liberal revolutions or something. Right now, I do not think that it would happen in the nearest terms. I think that it would need be more and more painful sanctions until they realize and start accepting of what is going on. Because right now, regular Russians, ordinary Russians, they are fine. They were living in poverty. It didn't quite change for them. When we are saying sanctions on Russian oligarchs, we are shooting at oligarchs. We are not like actually making it harder for regular Russians. You know, like what surprised us the most is that Russian soldiers in Bucha, in Gostomel, they were actually looting. They were killing people for washing machines. They were killing people for the pretty mugs because they don't have it there. And they were surprised, they're still surprised that in every village we have sanitation, we have toilets inside the houses. Because for us it's normal, we used to be and we are a democratic country. So in this matter, I think it will take much more time for regular, ordinary Russians to understand what's happening. And unfortunately, it would come through more and more coffins coming back to Russia, more and more understanding of that it is real. That what Putin is pushing them is real. And plus, the crimes committed in Bucha and Borodyanka, they were not committed by Putin. They were not committed. Women who were raped, they were not raped by Putin. They were raped by soldiers that decided that they can do whatever they want. And women raped in front of their children, they were raped by ordinary Russians who took a weapon and came in here to destroy the life that never meant to be theirs. So I do hope that at some point the information will get to them. But right now it's much more propaganda and their belief that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, the stories coming out are truly atrocious. As you alluded to also, the Commission this morning presented its latest, the sixth package of sanctions, which it says are targeted towards the Russian generals and to identify, to establish that we know that they were involved. Part of these plans also includes a phased-in ban on the import of Russian oil. What's your reaction to these latest package of sanction measures?
So it's a good one. So if we are talking systematically, so I would say the package of sanctions that would really work are ban on Russian coal happened, ban on Russian oil would happen, and ban on Russian gas. And fourth is seizing and retrieving the assets. Because right now, while the assets are frozen, they still have hope that at some point they will be returned. So, and of course, turning off banks of SWIFT. This is incredibly important for Russian currency to go down. So I do really hope that there will be no amendments to this package, and that the situation with Hungary and Slovakia and maybe some other countries will be resolved with the timeline and all that. But once these sanctions would start working, it would be a real deal, a real hit on Russian economy. $75 billion they will lose till the end of the year, given that there will be a delay in how sanctions start working. But this is why it is so important for the United States and actually for the EU countries as well to acknowledge Russia as a country sponsor of terrorism. Because then everybody who is buying anything from them is considered a sponsor of terrorism and automatically goes down under the specific set of sanctions. Why is it important? Because while the EU is preparing to these sanctions to take hit, like to regroups and repurposes some economical chains, Russia is also looking for the new markets. And they are talking to India, they are talking to China, they are talking to different Asian countries where they would try to sell the oil. And if they will be successful with that, then the sanctions would be not as painful as they were supposed to. Because, you know, with oil, it's much easier than with gas. It doesn't depend on pipelines, and they can just send the tankers the other way. So right now, it is another question that I want to ask everybody, like, how does the new world that we are living in look like? I have still many questions to the United Nations, still. Because why in 70 days of atrocities committed in my country, there is still no way to remove Russia off it? And how does the organization that cannot even commit to any decision without Russia putting a block on it, putting a veto on it, operate further? I have questions to NATO countries and to NATO as an organization. You see right now how 60 days timeline on actions does not work. What would happen if we were not fighting so hard? 60 days is almost like another life for us in terms of timeline. I have questions regarding how the new structure of EU would look like. So Hungary would definitely disagree to vote on the sanctions. So what's going to happen to them? Are they going to be stripped of their vote for some time? Or would be a new approach of how the EU looks like, and who does it want to unite or not unite with? So these are probably it's another topic of discussion, like a new world or something of it, but these are very important questions that I'm asking myself every single day.
Indeed, they are very important questions, and we will have to see how these progress. We've received a question from our audience. So they've seen a number of comments on how international humanitarian aid, how little of it is reaching where it is actually needed in Ukraine. Is this something that you have observed? And if so, what needs to change on our side in order to improve this to help you better?
So there are two types of humanitarian aid. First is the humanitarian aid that's going to Ukrainian refugees outside Ukraine and to many people in Poland, because though I bow to all Polish people who open their homes, I do understand that it's like it cannot continue forever. You will need the support to feed our people, to give them clothes, all that stuff. So a lot of humanitarian aid that you see is coming to Poland, and it's coming to other countries that gave shelter to my people. Second, I cannot say that humanitarian aid is something that is not needed or needed differently right now to my country. We are using everything. You know, at war, it's like every single day you need more of stuff. It turns, even with weapon support and supply support and with humanitarian aid. Like if you have 50 refugees in your home, it's every day that you have to feed them. And if you're fighting on the front, it's every day that you need more and more bullets. It's just like you got this, for example, 100 bullets from gathered from Germany, from France, from Britain, and we send all the kisses and hugs. But it took like one day. It's usually one day that we are using all the help that is getting from our international partners. So the way to get more specific aid is to work with the volunteers on the ground. And it's probably weird to say it from the member of parliament, but I strongly believe in decentralization and in this matter as well. It's obviously easier to send some money to Red Cross and say, okay, thank you so much. They will do whatever they need. It's much harder, but it's much more effective to call concrete volunteer organization and say, what do you exactly need right now? And because that would be more targeted, more sophisticated support. Give you a quick example on Bucha. So when we first went in, they needed food. And on the second day, they needed clothes. On the third day, they needed medical aid and supplies because once people like started realizing that the danger is over, that all their sicknesses started to kick in. But on the fourth day, they started needed, you know, this sarin wrap to close their windows that were broken. But who can imagine, like when you are a volunteer in France and you are gathering a package to Ukraine, you're not sending sarin wrap, right? Because like who would do that? But you know what? On another thing, and I'm sorry, like, it's sometimes very emotional. So recently, I got a package from my friend who has a lingerie store in Turkey, and she sent 2 boxes of like a very nice loungewear. It just was like, you know, nice to touch. And she wrote a note, give it to the girls who suffered sexual violence. I want them to feel beautiful and pretty again. So you never know what's needed, but I can assure that whatever you send here will come of use. Because we have like still so many people who are in trouble and who would need support. And as a government, we are working to make sure that this logistics, that it's working and that people are getting what they need. We are not 100% effective, I can tell you that. So you can sometimes hear like the comments, etc., the things that didn't go well. That's also true. But the war is a chaos, and sometimes you just like have to deal with it in chaos. But to whoever send us anything, literally anything, thank you so much from all of my people.
Thank you, Kira. And as I suspect you can imagine, a lot of questions that we received from our audience is along these lines. How, you know, genuinely, how can we help? How can we best help? And that's very helpful for us to hear.
I can give you like a quick answer on that.
Please do.
You can help with funds, and there is a fund which is called Return Alive. It's a main volunteer fund that accepts donation from all over the world. And we trust them because the military guys who are buying everything for the front. You can send humanitarian support to the organization called Aid for Ukraine. They are working with the main city councils, so they have their storage facilities in Poland, so it's very easy to do. You can write a note to people and support them if you see that they are in despair. You can put a Ukrainian flag outside your window because it will be super important when somebody sees that. And of course, you can push your government, you can push your politicians to do everything possible and impossible. And on that matter, I want to tell you a really funny story about Tim Dooley and Ilhan Kluchuk from ALDE Party, who came into Kiev. And so Ilhan is from Bulgaria, and Tim is from Ireland. And so we were gathering together there, like at our big meeting. It's a secret meeting because it was the attacks were still there. So we had a list of countries and what military of weapons they have and what they can give us still. So it's given to Ukrainian members of parliament and leaders. So we can, when we are talking to people from different countries, we can tell them like what exactly we need. And we are talking to Bulgaria, we were talking to Ilhan and saying, oh, Bulgaria should give us this, and you can like, here is the list, Ilhan, come back home and you do your job. And then we turned to Ireland and we looked at our list and said, you good, you gave us everything. So can you imagine for a small country like Ireland, who is so far away from Ukraine, to give us everything they had? They have nothing that we need. So they sent us all the vests and helmets and everything, so they just took it. And so this is like, I don't know if there are Irish people listening to me, but I can tell you, you guys can wake up, look in the mirror and say, yeah, we have done everything for Ukraine. This is fantastic. And this is something that we want people to push their governments to do. Make sure that you did everything. Because you know that we are fighting here not only for ourselves, we fight so the Russians wouldn't move further. And we know that they have those plans. We want to make sure that at some point we will be able to all together build like a European Union as we see it, as a progressive organization of future, where people can live without fearing for the life of theirs and their loved ones, where people can develop. So thank you. And sorry for answering your question so on a different way.
Not at all, very grateful, and that's very good to hear. We've got a few more questions from our audience, so if that's okay with you, we'll ask those to you, and then I'll pass the floor back to you for a final word. So Sabina in the comments has asked about the possibility of stopping the forced deportation of Ukrainians to Russia. She asks, is it something that can only be stopped by a complete military defeat of Russia, or do you think there are other options?
So this is a huge problem that we are facing right now. And it all comes to ability to negotiate, if not only like a general peace terms, but at least on the things like that. Like the points that we need, that are points of negotiation from our side, is getting people out of siege cities, stopping their forcible deportation, and making sure that there are no referendums on the temporary occupied territories, and exchange of our militaries, of the captives. And you see, and none of them we have like a good success right now. Probably maybe in exchange a little bit, but Russians are really have it as a part of their strategy, forcibly moving people to Russia to have it in their exchange pool. So they basically, the rate is right now 20 civilians for one captive military person here in Ukraine. So we honestly right now, we have used all our exchange fund. We don't have too many captive Russians anymore because we used all of that to get our people back. But they will continue doing that, and I don't think that if we cannot agree on letting people out of siege city, that we will be able to agree to them to stop getting this exchange fund.
Thank you. We have another question, this one posed by Marcus. What would victory mean for you? So a complete withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukrainian soil. Would Russia need to provide a demilitarized zone along the border of Ukraine? He asks.
So there are many aspects, honestly. The first and the foremost is pushing Russia back to the borders before war. And you know that they have temporarily occupied the eastern parts of Ukraine, and there is a Crimea question. But the first step would be to push Russian forces back. Second is to strip Russia over their nuclear weapons. And if there is a point that Ukraine is fighting towards, is that. Because, you know, like all the NATO countries, like they were so slow in providing us with weapons because the whole world is so upset and frightened that Russia would push the red button. And this needs to stop. If we are pushing Iran not to develop nuclear weapons, we need to push Russia to stop their nuclear program as well. And of course, there would be a question of the International Tribunal. And that I don't think that's something that Putin would agree to without our total victory. And there would be also questions on reparations and like who would be paying for Ukraine rebuilding, and that would also need to come from Russia. So the victory is a very complicated question, especially that right now Russia is creating those referendums on the temporary occupied territories to claim that no, we are not coming, we are not getting back from here. And this is super problematic for us because we absolutely not giving up our territories.
So next Monday is May 9, and Putin is likely to be wanting to present some sort of victory for Victory Day. Are you worried about a new escalation in the coming days so he can somehow have something he can present as a victory?
Yes, this is exactly what we all are worried about. And this is why we see that the amount of Russian missiles hitting our cities is increased recently. So we will probably not be having a parliamentary gathering at this day, and which would be a smart thing to do, right? So, and there will be additional security measures here. And I know that I know that soldiers on our front, that they are very concerned as well, and that they are seeing that they are pushing forward and forward to get at least to some victory. They may want to take some of the cities like Odessa, Mykolaiv, or Kharkiv. It will be problematic, but they will try to do so.
And then one final question before I pass for a final sign-off words. A question on the European accession. So President Zelensky has signed the letter, and the second half of the questionnaire, your government has said will submit before the end of the week. How optimistic are you towards the application? And what would a potential decision on candidate status potentially in June mean for you and for your country?
Well, I'm personally extremely optimistic because I do believe again that this is the right thing to do, both emotionally, organizationally, and like politically. Well, emotionally, we all understand that we are like fighting for those democratic rights. We are fighting for democratic values, and he started the war on us because we wanted to join NATO and EU. He started in 2014 when we declined, in referendum, we declined joining Russia and all its evil things. And we said, no, we are going towards EU, we are going towards NATO, and we wrote it in our constitution. And this is why he attacked. So this is the core of why we are fighting. And that would be like an amazing thing that we would be able to win, but in a different way, that finally we got there. You know, the processes of structural processes of joining our bureaucratic things with European bureaucratic things have been going for years. And with the questionnaire, and I'm working very closely with our Vice President of our Vice Prime Minister of European integration, she has like it all covered. We are not even working hard on the questionnaire because we had it all prepared. And we have been working, we did our homework very well. And it would mean for us that no matter that there is a war, that we have this future, and that this future is bright. And that with your bravery and your strides, you can actually achieve what you aimed for so long. And we can talk about economical impact and how probably we'll need to have these like delay times for actually creating the supply chains, etc., etc. but it all are things that could be resolved. This is why I'm talking about, like, do we want the result, or do we want to stick to the rules that were made a while ago when the world was very different? And I do believe that we need to stick to the result, because, okay, I will save it to my final speech.
Well, then without you, let me pass it back to you for your final word.
Okay. So that's it. So look, so first of all, thank you so much for everybody who is listening right now. And thank you so much for your interest in Ukraine. And thank you so much for all the help and support. You know, when we planned this discussion, I thought that I would be talking more about the atrocities, that I would be talking about how we need still to get weapons that we are not getting, and how the things are very bad in my country. And I can tell you they're still very bad. I can be very negative today and I can tell you about all the bad things that are happening, but I will not, because I like to push myself with positive things. And honestly, in 70 days, the ball got rolling on getting us the weapons, when right now it's a matter of pride for the countries to send us NATO-grade weapons, not only some Soviet era things that are not needed. When we are talking about the economical support, it is coming together. You have seen the 6th package of sanctions. Who would imagine even in their darkest dreams that there will be 6 package of sanctions, but here it is. It's coming on. And the countries, even Germany, are saying, yeah, we will vote for that. Yeah, okay. Can you even imagine how countries are coming together to help us and to make sure that in this war we are all united? There are so many things that still are going wrong, but there are so many more things that are coming right. When people coming together emotionally, they start understand how to help. When politicians start realizing that there will be new structures in security, that there will be new structures in how the world interacts, that we are basically right now in lieu of how the Allies were on the Second World War. They were slow in Second World War, but they came together, opened the second front, and then we won over Nazism, fascism, and after that, the world changed. There was a brand new world built after Second World War. Right now, we are rebuilding it all together. And I love talking to people from different parliaments of the world who are eager to rebuild it, who have seen so many things going wrong, and right now they see this chance of doing things right. I see it for my country, and I see it for other countries as well. Because right now, all the boundaries that we had in our minds of, oh yeah, but these are the rules, these are bureaucratic things, these are the points, these are all this and that, they are all gone. Right now we are doing to the point. We are asking ourselves like, okay, yeah, well, forget about how things were done before. How do we get it done? How do we deliver on the purpose? And this is incredible. We'll probably have a new United Nations. We'll probably have a different structure of European Union. But we will be closer to the world that we are building for our children, that will be a peaceful world. We're a world where we know how to deal with aggressors like Russia, where we would know how to deal with aggressors like China, where we would know how to be better, where we know to push for liberal values that I truly believe in, where we would have this unity that we are getting right now from people from all over the world that we will not forget. Because you cannot forget the things that you are doing, we are doing right now for each other. And we will never forget the things that you are doing for us. And you will not forget the things that you are doing for us. Because you know, so my parents live in New York, and I have a stepfather who is an American. And when we first met, we were talking about how the Second World War had an impact on people. And I was super proud because I was a part of the nation who won in Second World War. And he said, well, we also are a nation who won in the Second World War. And we are all like third generation of people who fought in Second World War and who won in Second World War. So this, what's happening right now, it will also go in generation. And I'm so proud that we all are doing well on this. We are doing the way that when our grandchildren will ask us of what we were doing in these historical times, there will be things to tell. There will be good things to tell. And with that, I thank all of you and hope that will be better times for my country, and hope that will be more boring meetings when I will be telling you about rebuilding of infrastructure objects and all that stuff. But right now we are still fighting. Thank you for your support. Glory to Ukraine.
Well, thank you, Kira. I'm sure I speak for many people that are following us online to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to hear from you, to ask our questions to you, but also just to hear from you. Your bravery and resilience in these trying times is a real inspiration for us. You can count on our support, and I'm sure if we could continue this conversation for a very long time. For those of you following us who have not or do not currently follow Kira, please find her on all the social medias. You will find coverage, and she keeps us fully informed. Kira, my thanks to you again. Stay strong, stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Love Ukraine.